is exempt from this. If you live in Baltimore City, it could be your child next. That's right. That's how real this thing is. Yep, right. So we're asking you to bring your young men and your young women to us. Playtime is over.
Fathers in prison. Yep. Some of the fathers are in the street leading this madness. Right. And that children gotta see them. I gotta have kids with me and go around the corner so they won't see their father on the block slinging.
Don't be part of the problem by being silent. Being silent and on the sideline right now is part of the problem.
All us gotta hold each other accountable.
That's right.
All these mothers know that kids carry guns. All the grandfathers, mothers, uncles, cousins know they carry guns. I hold all y'all accountable.
Black lives only matter when somebody else is killing us.
That's right.
Fine speech, and there really isn't anything wrong with what these men said because everything they said is true. We should hold ourselves accountable. We need to stop pretending like black lives only matter if somebody else is killing us. We need to be more aware that there are kids doing things that they really shouldn't be doing, and there are parents that know about it. The issue I have is that now it's on the community to actually start stepping up. Y'all worried about all these different instances. Y'all only care about black lives when it's convenient. I've said numerous times, there are people who share the same shade as me, who do the same dumbass things that a white person can do, and yet mum's the word with y'all. Y'all sit there and get mad at me, calling out stupid people for doing stupid things, acting as if me pointing out one dumbass is somehow infringing upon all of black people, when that's just a lame excuse that you want to use because holding yourself accountable is a sin to you, and it's embarrassing. The amount of people that have lost their lives in any instance that is unfair is absolutely piss poor, and it shouldn't be happening. But the fact that so many people want to play the narrative game, they want to sit there and say you can't call out black people, they want to sit there and say, oh, all you do is make sure black people are held down, when all I'm doing is pointing out a few dumbasses who exist that openly and knowingly prey on the emotions of people who want to care, but they're too stupid to actually do anything except give money to a company that really hasn't done anything. It is embarrassing how long this has gone on, and it's sad that a lot of people, some who are BLM activists, don't get the same traction, don't get the same news coverage, don't get the same circumstance, all because the skin color of the perpetrator is what matters the most. Sasha Johnson and the black lives that don't matter. A year ago, she was shot in the head. The silence from BLM has been deafening. There has been a wall of silence, said one local campaigner I spoke to at a vigil dedicated to 28-year-old anti-racism campaigner Sasha Johnson. A year ago, on the 23rd of May of 2021, Johnson was brutally shot in the head. The vigil was held earlier this week in London's Denmark Hill, a short walk from the hospital where Johnson continues to lie in critical condition with what have been described as catastrophic and permanent injuries to the head. She has 2 children under the age of 13. The vigil was small, attended by about 30 people, mainly old school black power and black nationalist groups such as the Nation of Islam. One group was notably absent: Black Lives Matter. Sasha Johnson is a black rights campaigner who rose to prominence in 2020 amid the eruption of the Black Lives Matter movement following the murder of George Floyd in the U.S. by a police officer. Johnson drew a great deal of attention for her Black Panther Party-inspired outfits, her passionately black-centric rhetoric, and sometimes strange political bedfellows, and her willingness to debate her adversaries, including former English Defense League leader Tommy Robertson. Johnson spoke out against what she regarded as an unequal treatment and representation of black people in Britain. She joined and organized with a range of groups, including Black Lives Matter, Kill the Bill, and Rhodes Must Fall. Just before the tragic incident, Johnson was actively involved in the Taking the Initiative Party, which notably gained more than 4,000 votes in the recent local elections in Croydon, South London. Despite her alignment with Black Lives Matter, with its identitarian demands for recognition and insistence on black racial victimhood, Johnson advocated for more traditional notions of black self-reliance and black power. On the 23rd of May, Johnson was shot in the head at a party in Peckham in the early hours of the morning. Days after the shooting, 5 men under 30 were arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. They were due to stand trial in March this year, but the case collapsed in February as the prosecutor said it could only offer circumstantial evidence to the court. Following the collapse of the trial, both the police and Johnson's family noted the unwillingness of witnesses witnesses to cooperate with the police. Deputy Chief Inspector Nigel Penny, who is leading the ongoing investigation into the shooting, has said that there were plenty of people there, yet many have not been willing to speak to us. There's a grim and tragic irony to what transpired after Johnson's shooting. Immediately after the attack, there was a great deal of speculation about the motivation, and many were quick to assume that it was racially or politically motivated. And if it wasn't, white supremacy is still to blame somehow. White people will forever have deep-rooted hatred towards black women. We are the devil in their eyes. Praying for Sasha Johnson. Hope she pulls through. Sasha Johnson is still in critical condition. The white attacks on her character, while immediately denying her shooter was racially motivated, are almost verbatim how the murders of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were reported in 1969. I'm praying that Sasha Johnson receives full healing. I'm also praying that whoever shot her is found out. Also, to those saying that BLM is a terrorist organization are just threatened and they feel that they would no longer be in control. BLM threatens white supremacy. Laborer MP Diane Abbott went as far to say nobody should have to potentially pay with their life because they stood up for racial justice. The day after the shooting, while much still remained unknown, Black Lives Matter UK organized the vigil. However, as more information came out about the circumstances of the shooting, as we learned that the suspects were not white and that it was unlikely to have been a white supremacist attack, the commentary started to dissipate. Even after Johnson's family shared gruesome images of Johnson in hospital earlier this year showing parts of her head missing, many of those who initially spoke out against the shooting had nothing more to say. There have been no black squares, no hashtags, no mass demonstrations of civil disobedience. Even the crowdfunder that was set up to support Johnson and her family after the shooting has only just surpassed half of its modest fundraising goal of 20,000 euros. And I would just like to add a little snippet in. Isn't it funny that they had this ready to give to somebody? All they had to do was tell us anonymously anything about this, why it happened, why were they there, and nobody had the balls to stand up and say, even anonymously, this is what happened, these are the people, this is what they were planning to do, and this is how they wanted to do it. Nobody. There seems to be a double standard in society's response to black victims of violence. Police killings and police brutality, while relatively rare in the UK, draw enormous attention, whereas there seems to be far less concern about the fact that black people are disproportionately impacted by violent crime. Young black men in Britain are 24 times more likely to die of a homicide than their white counterparts. In London, violent knife and gun attacks are only becoming more common. This, I would argue, is the most potent example of how black lives are disregarded. This indifference towards the nihilistic violence that plagues significant sections of Britain's ethnic minority communities is poisonous. It is devastating. The indictment of our society, whether we condemn or take action against such grotesque violence, should not be contingent on whether it suits a particular political agenda. We must not let the shooting of Sasha Johnson fade from the public memory. We cannot let it become just another story of violent crime in the inner city of London. If lives matter, black or otherwise, her shooting should implore us to grapple with the scourge of violence in our society. You will openly acknowledge that we must care that a white cop or a white racist does something, but when your black counterpart does the exact same thing, it's just because of poverty. It's just because of circumstance. It's just because of whatever excuse you want to drum up, because it's more important to pick a side than actually hold people accountable. I want my black community to be better. Truly, I do. But it starts with us. And if we're not going to start making strides to do anything to solve this problem, it's just going to keep happening more and more and more. And nobody's really going to do anything except bitch and moan and then complain that people are bitching and moaning. It's funny to me that there are people out there who think in California that once they get those reparations, everything will be solved. But it won't. You'll still have black people fighting. You'll still have instances of black people losing their lives. You'll still have an issue that's not solved. But for some reason, you think a check is going to solve every single problem that exists. No, it won't. It's just going to be a band-aid on a gunshot wound. And honestly, based on how y'all treated those unemployment benefits and those COVID stimulus, y'all not going to hold on to that money for too long. And then y'all going to get right back to being mad that somebody has something that you don't because you think equality means everybody should suffer just like you. I'm sorry, but no. I can acknowledge and accept that people will believe that George Floyd and Breonna Taylor are significant moments in time for black Americans. But if you can't look at what I'm about to show you and have the exact same level of energy, well, congratulations on letting me know a black life only matters when it's convenient.
It's like, this is real. it's another acknowledgement that my son is not coming home.
First at 6, a mother's grief as Atlanta police charged 2 teens in the death of her son and another child. Just announced today, investigators say they have made progress in the investigation into the deaths of 15-year-old Cameron Jackson and 12-year-old Zion Charles. The suspects are teenagers and will face murder and gang charges.
But the police say the investigation is far from over. 11 Alive's Tracy Amick joins us live near where that shooting took place. And Tracy, you just spoke with Cameron's mother, right?
I did. Now, the teens arrested are 15 and 16 years old. They're both facing murder, aggravated assault, and gang charges. And today, when I spoke with Cameron Jackson's mother, she says ever since the shooting, she's been devastated. Now, police say her son was riding a scooter to Atlantic Station when he was shot the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Hundreds of kids were in the area at the time after being kicked off Atlantic Station's property. Now, police have said the shooters were specifically targeting Cameron, but haven't said why. During the chaos, 12-year-old Zion Charles was also hit in the gunfire and killed. According to police, the 15-year-old and 16-year-old in custody are both APS students. Police say one was taken into custody in New York, and police believe both suspects knew Cameron. Cameron's mom, Tiffany Smith, says these arrests make it even more real to her that her son is not coming home, and she just wants it to be over.
Like, I've just been in a zone, like a nightmare, wanting to wake up, and I'm not waking up. Like, this is real. And so at this point, I'm just ready for it to be over so that I can start the healing process and moving on to rebuilding my family.
Now, Atlanta police say this is an ongoing investigation and more charges are expected moving forward. Reporting live from Atlantic Station, Tracy Amick, 11 Alive News.
All right, subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.